Let's put it this way, Cancer season begins this week and it starts off with a bang. Hi, my name is Haley Comet and welcome to Just Your Magic Monday, particularly your Magic Monday astrological forecast for the week of June 17th to June 23rd, 2024. But every other week of astrology for that matter, you can find here on my channel, told to you by me. My name is Haley Comet, here in my cosmic corner of the internet with a cosmic beverage in hand, to not just let you know what's happening astrologically in the cosmos above us, but empower you for how you can leverage this astrology, how you can co-create with the cosmos in order to navigate your reality with more magic and more alignment. And that's why it's called Magic Monday. So if that sounds up your alley, we would so love to have you join us. You can subscribe below. And this week's astrology marks a very distinct tonal shift within the month of June 2024 and its astrology. We are fundamentally shifting from the mind to the feels. Let's put it that way. The past couple of weeks, we have been treading through territory that featured strong Mercury. A lot of Gemini was in the cosmos, which could have had you feeling, yes, maybe a little bit more light with life, maybe a little bit more communicative and chatty, but also overstimulated, overwhelmed, maybe even overthinking. And this week we have more and more of the cosmos shifting into Cancer. And before they do, they have a parting gift from their time in the Gemini sector of the sky, which is a square to Neptune. And the thing about having a week that has strong Cancerian and Neptunian energies present is that we're a little sensitive, we're a little emotional, we may be a little crabby, okay? We kick off Cancer season this week. They are fundamentally the archetype of the crab. We may feel a little bit more responsive. Keep in mind, when it comes to Cancer energy, it's not that they're moody, they're just responsive. Like, we are shifting into a season in which we are more dialed into the energetic and emotional undercurrents of life, and we are responding accordingly. But the sensitivity is even more highlighted this week because as we enter Cancer season, we are greeted by a Capricorn full moon on June 21st. And you may know that the bigger and bigger that the moon gets above us in the sky, the more and more emotions tend to rise to the surface. The more bonkers the general public can feel when you're just navigating day to day, the more pronounced of emotions that may come to the surface. Now, the more you can feel inclined to celebrate. It's not saying that it's a negative thing. It's just saying this week our energy is a little bit more tuned up and we're feeling all of the feels, good feels, bad feels, with an intense frequency and depth. So we'll talk about everything that you need to know about the loving, sensitive, intuitive, ethereal energy that we are navigating within this week's astrology. But before we do, take a step inside my Cosmic Cafe. Let me know what you are sipping on to start your week and to start your summer, to start your winter. How exciting that we are moving into a new season. Let me know what you are sipping on as you do so. I just got back from a trip. You will never guess where. You will never guess where I may have traveled to within this big, beautiful world. And maybe you did guess. You know, one thing about having harsh Neptune in the cosmos is that it does tend to intensify our psychic antenna. Or perhaps you just read my sweatshirt. I just got back from New York City. I was there for a week with a lot of my best friends, celebrating my friend Miranda's birthday. She's a Gemini, so you know she had to have all her people together. It was so magical having everyone together. It's so rare because we all live so many different places. Some of us live in New York City, San Francisco, San Diego, Hawaii. So it was really magical to be able to all reunite in a city as dazzling and dizzying as New York City at that. It was so much fun, but we were non-stop doing things. I mean, a lot of late nights, a lot of different activities, a lot of chit-chatting, which is a lot for an introvert like me, staying in these small New York City apartments. I'm talking crammed with girls, staying in these New York City apartments. So it took a lot out of me. And after a trip like that, where it's just like non-stop, like club, bus, another club, another club. Like, I'm not kidding when I say on that flight home yesterday, I felt like I was fighting for my life with my final 2 brain cells after all of that. So the only reason that I am able to sit here in the cosmic corner and be able to be lucid enough to be able to communicate this week's astrology is due to this drink right here, which is Magic Mind. And if you've been watching Magic Monday for a while, you've heard me talk about Magic Mind before because this is my secret weapon. I'm not kidding. This is my secret weapon to help me mentally lock into whatever it is that I'm doing, especially when I'm feeling very distracted and all over the place, which is is important to bear in mind this week, as we do have Mercury square Neptune, which is very much that energy around why did I walk into this room again? Or like staring at your computer screen like what was due again today? Like we can be absolutely battling to keep our minds on track this week, and Magic Mind will support with your focus. Let me tell you why. So Magic Mind is fundamentally formulated to help support your brain and body get into flow state, which is the state in which there's no separation between you and what it is that you are doing. You're completely locked in and dialed in. And it does that via the ingredients. So it has nootropics in there, which help keep you focused, tapped in, lasered into whatever it is that you are doing. So for me, the nootropics and Magic Mind are helping me laser into this video and not worry about the suitcase that needs to get unpacked and all of my emails that I have not answered yet because I was frolicking in New York City for the past week. But nevertheless, Magic Mind helps me tackle one thing at a time and be fully present and be fully there. The suitcase will get unpacked when I decide to prioritize that. The emails will get read and answered to when I decide to prioritize that. Magic Mind helps me unlock more from my brain to really laser into what it is that I am doing at that moment. And adding to that, Magic Mind also boosts your energy with matcha. However, it's not that jittery all over the place sort of energy that a lot of other energy drinks or even coffee gives you. It's much more of a grounded, focused, productive sort of energy. I most certainly need a little caffeine boost after being in New York City and not sleeping much, but it helps energize me without stressing me out, because I find sometimes when I drink things that have a ton of caffeine in there, sometimes it kind of heightens my anxiety by the amount that I have to do, which isn't very productive. Then I just get into a state where I'm stressing out about the amount of things on my to-do list rather than just handling them. So Magic Mind boosts my energy without overwhelming my mind. And so a couple of my favorite ingredients that are within Magic Mind, I love that it contains ashwagandha. This is super helpful for decreasing stress and anxiety. It also contains lion's mane, which is helpful for focus and even memory. I'm telling you, it's not a coincidence that Magic Mind has the word magic within the title. So I drink mine every morning alongside of my coffee. So if you're hearing about all of these benefits and you want to give it a try, Magic Mind is hooking you guys up with a free 3-pack sample. So you can give it a try. You just have to pay for shipping. And to do just that, just click the link below within my description or within the pinned comment and use my code, which is Comet Trial. And that will give you a free 3-pack sample of Magic Mind. You just have to pay shipping. And from there, you can cancel the subscription if you choose not to continue on with Magic Mind. But I'm telling you, once you feel the benefits of sipping this in the morning, you could drink it alongside your morning coffee as I do, or make it into a latte, whatever you want to do. But what I will say is that once you give it a try, you will love it. So make sure to check out the link within my description or within the pinned comment. Use code Comet Trial to give it a try. Thank you so much, Magic Mind, for sponsoring this week's Magic Monday and keeping our Mondays magical here, keeping my mind lasered in to a point where I'm able to deliver the forecast, because coming back from New York City last night, I was unsure I was able to, but being able to take a shot of my Magic Mind along with my coffee and help me dial in to be able to film and chat about the Capricorn full moon and the Neptune squares and all the Cancer ingresses and everything else that this week has in store. So thank you so much. And without further ado, let's go ahead and take it into Vibe Check of the Week. So now that I've taken my Magic Mind shot, I am locked in and ready to get into Vibe Check of the Week, which is a segment that we do here on Magic Monday, where we compare all of the astrological energies that we will experience this week. So Sun and Mercury squaring Neptune and then entering Cancer, Mercury sextile Mars, Mercury conjoining Venus, the Capricorn full moon. We essentially take what all of those energies feel like and compare it to a real life scenario. And as a reminder, I'm not literally saying that this exact situation will play out within your week. Sometimes it does, and I'm shook, but more so tune into the dynamics, the vibes, the emotions to figure out what may surface within your world, within reality. It's essentially a metaphoric device that we use to take the cosmos down here to planet Earth. So feel free to fill in the blanks for whatever makes sense within your universe, but we'll say that there is a family barbecue and you all are having it at Prospect Park, and everybody is responsible for bringing something different to the barbecue. So you make a beautiful fruit salad and your little sister is on hamburger buns and hot dog buns. And this makes you a little worried because your little sister is someone who tends to get a little distracted. She's somebody who tends to be a little forgetful, and you're not driving with her. She's meeting over at Prospect Park, which is where the barbecue is being held. She's coming straight after work, which makes you nervous due to her tendency to arrive late or to get lost. So you text her, you say, hey sis, remember hot dog buns, hamburger buns, those are really important to the meal. This is the time that the barbecue will be held. It's at Prosper Park, and I'll see you there at 2 p.m. sharp. I know you get off at 1:45, just buzz over. And so you're at the barbecue and you're lost in conversation with some of your aunts and uncles and cousins that you haven't seen for some time. You're sipping on something from the ice chest. You are debuting your fruit salad. It looks beautiful. It's getting lots of compliments. And you're realizing that time is going by and you're still not seeing your little sister, but you're so lost in conversation that you keep forgetting to text her and check on her. You're like, she has everything she needs. She will arrive eventually. But by the time that the meat is done, so the hamburger meat and the hot dogs are done being made, you're looking around the table. You're like, there's still not buns here. Oh, my little sister still isn't here. So for the first time, you go over to your backpack, you check your phone, and you have 49 missed calls. You have all of these texts of your little sister saying, where are you guys? Where are you guys? I'm walking around Prosper Park and I cannot find anyone. And you're like, oh no, oh no. You're like, it's at Prospect Park. You went to Prosper Park? That's all the way across town. We're at Prospect Park. And you're so quick to blame it on her, like, come on, this is so like you to go to the wrong park. But then you realize, you scroll up, you sent her Prosper Park. You sent her Prosper Park within the text that you said, the buns, the time, you said Prosper Park and not Prospect Park. So she shimmies over across town and makes it to the barbecue. And yeah, there's a little bit of sass, but you guys get over it pretty quickly. And you guys all gather together and you have the hamburgers, you have the hot dogs, you have your beautiful fruit salad, and life goes on. That's the vibe of this week. There can be miscommunications, that is to be sure, with Mercury squaring Neptune. It might be extra important to make sure that you are on the same page with those who you are communicating with. I also would not buy into any gossip that you hear. The energy of Neptune, it can mystify and it can muddy. So there's an energy this week where not everything that's being shared is as it seems. There might be other factors that are being intentionally hidden behind view. Now, some of this is unintentional, right? You did not mean to send your little sister to the wrong park, right? To Prosper Park. Like sometimes with Mercury square Neptune, it just kind of makes us where we're in a different place. So we're a little bit more distracted. If we're not drinking our magic mind, okay, we're a little bit more distracted. And so there could be certain details that we accidentally make fuzzy or that we mistell. It's like a game of telephone in the cosmos a little bit with Mercury squaring Neptune, which is why the situation happened within the vibe check. And this week isn't giving any outright angry energy. So while there's miscommunications, it's sort of one of those just kind of sibling annoyances where you guys brush under the rug pretty seamlessly. Like there was really no harm, no foul. Your little sister made it to the barbecue. You guys had buns. It was not a big deal. You were able to laugh about it. It's definitely not giving that stewing resentment, anger energy of last week's astrology and the Mars square Pluto, to be exact. Let me know how that was for you all. I'll link last week's Magic Monday below as well as above so you can get caught up on that energy. This week's astrology isn't giving that around this seething, burning anger that's existing within. It's like there might be annoyances, there might be miscommunications, but it's nothing that we can't brush under the rug, particularly in the name of choosing kind of togetherness, choosing celebration, wanting to connect. And the reason why you weren't on your phone is because of that very nature. You were having all of these great conversations, which could absolutely be alive within your week's astrology with Mercury and Venus aligning. You could be really wanting to have these deep, soulful communications with those around you. You could be getting lost in those communications with Mercury and Venus separating from Neptune, immersing yourself so much in the present moment, wanting to soak in every little bit of it that the outer world and your cell phone ceases to exist. So certainly, while there were some emotions within the vibe check, we'll say that your little sister couldn't help it. She cried a little bit out of frustration. What do you mean? You're at a park all the way across town. You texted me Prosper Park and you're frustrated because your little sister is always the one who's forgetting the buns and who's going to the wrong park. It's nothing that you guys can't work through, right? In this name of love, in this name of togetherness, in this name of making memories. We have to keep in mind Cancer is a very nostalgic, sentimental energy. So while we could be a little bit more sensitive, we could perceive certain things as a certain slight towards to our identity, right? Like being so quick to judge your little sister around, well, she's late because she's irresponsible, so she probably got lost and she forgot the buns, right? And her assuming to you, she's not answering the phone. What a horrible big sister. Like I don't know where the family is. I've been wandering around Prosper Park for like an hour. Once we're able to dig deeper and realize, oh, this isn't a you're evil thing, it was just a misunderstanding, there's an energy where we're able to kind of move through the potential confusion that could come alive within this week's astrology. So there's so much more that you need to know about these energies, and we'll go ahead and get into that within our day-by-day analysis. I just want to make a quick note that all times that I mention will be PDT, which is Pacific Time Zone, as I'm located in California. So please adjust to your time zone if you are located elsewhere. I do have a tendency to talk very fast, so please feel free to utilize YouTube's playback speed button. It's like on the gear icon. You can slow me down, you can speed me up, align my rate of speaking to your rate of processing, whatever that may be. I also have timestamps below for your convenience. Should you feel called to jump to a particular day, jump back to a particular day. Some people like to listen to the first part all at once and then leave the day parts for the day that goes by. So just know that's an option if that entices you in any way. And let's go ahead and take it into the astrology forecast for Monday, June 17th. So happy Monday. Welcome to your astrology forecast for Monday, June 17th. Shortly after midnight, Mercury in Gemini will square off with Neptune in Pisces. This exacts at 12:41 a.m. PDT. And we have a lot of Neptune squares. We just had Venus square Neptune the night before, and then we have the Sun building to square Neptune a little later on in the week. And what you need to know about Neptune energy is that it tends to melt. In many directions. It's almost like having a chocolate bar that you leave out in the sun and it melts. It loses all of its shape and substance. So it's not necessarily energy that is nicely squared off into a certain day. You're going to kind of feel it bleed and spread into different directions and kind of create this overall Neptunian haze, even on the days that we don't have a Neptune aspect exact. So what you need to know about this puddle that is Neptune energy. First, pay attention to your dreams. You could observe, especially around Neptune aspects exacting, your dream world can be especially active. And honestly, with Mercury squaring Neptune, your dreams could have messages for you that may be helpful to just sit with and be like, I wonder why my kooky little subconscious would have dreamt up that particular scenario. Is there another truth that I can extract from this? Even if we're not dreaming while we're asleep, we could be dreaming while we're awake. We could be halfway here, halfway in fantasy in our own world. If we were to tag ourselves within the vibe check, me personally, Haley Comet, the conduit for this week's forecast, would not be the responsible older sister who was giving the little sister instructions for how to get to the family reunion. If I were to tag myself, I'm the irresponsible younger sister. Shout out to Darcy, my older sister, who always helps me with things like that, because the reason I'm the irresponsible little sister is not because I'm truly an irresponsible person. It's because it's very easy for me to be absent-minded or to lose track of small details because I have a whole other world that I am tending to. I have this whole other fantasy world. I might be driving from work to the family reunion, but actually I'm listening to the radio and pretending I'm in a Lana music video. I'm fantasizing what I want my life to be like. Like I'm trying to maintain this real world where there's hamburger buns and hot dog buns that are needed with my own fantasy world and the cinematic, dreamy way that I view life. So to me, I think it's pretty productive to be balancing two worlds, but I know I come up to a lot of people as being very flighty and not totally here because of that. And that's my MO every day of the week. But even if that's not your MO, you might feel that early this week, a little bit just more in fantasy, a little bit more in la la land. It could be harder to focus. Like you might be at work, but your mind is utterly elsewhere. It's to your crush. It's to where you want to travel this summer. It's anywhere but here. Because ultimately, the energy of Neptune is wanting to escape reality. It's wanting to transcend reality. And when we add this degree of fantasy and art and dreaminess and meaning to our world, it helps us transcend even temporarily those mundane facets of life, right? Those ordinary drives to the reunion, those ordinary Mondays when you have to go to work. Neptune energy can help us apply this extra level of spiritual meaning, of dreaminess, of artistry to the regular, to the mundane. Where this gets tricky and where you need to keep this energy in mind is that with Mercury being the messenger, there could be certain messages that are coming out today that are a little slippery. Now, they could be unintentional, right? Like the older sister within the vibe check did not mean to send the little sister to Prosper Park, which somehow is also a park in the same city. Like sometimes the information that's being obscured or mistold, sometimes it's unintentional. Sometimes it's you're sitting at the desk and you're meant to be working, but your mind is actually thinking about your crush and your vacation, so you accidentally attach the wrong document. Like not everything is nefarious necessarily. It could just be literally absent-minded, like being so busy in dream world, just having a lot on our mind or being distracted that we accidentally misrepresent the information or attach the wrong document or send our little sister to the wrong park. Whoopsie. Not my intention, right? Some of it may be, and that's where you need to be mindful, is the energy of Mercury squaring Neptune. We have to keep in mind Venus squared Neptune last night. Mercury and Venus align a little later Monday. So some people could be future faking. You know, some people could be telling and selling you a big game, okay? Telling you like, this is what our future is gonna look like and we're gonna do all these things. And that could show up certainly in a romantic context. That could also show up within people trying to sell you something. Like literally salespeople saying, you need to buy this, and the Neptune energy could obscure the details around on the actual price or the value of the product or who owned it before. Neptune energy is very good at selling you a dream while keeping certain details hidden and fogged, especially with the Mercury square. So you'll just want to be mindful when it comes to romantic decisions and financial decisions, because with Mercury and Venus aligning and squaring off with Neptune, people could be talking a big game, but there can be information that's not being revealed at that moment. So if you're dating someone, they could ask you, how many kids do you want? Do you want to live in the countryside? Like telling you and allowing you to envision this whole reality while keeping certain details around their past hidden, or certain details around their intentions hidden. Like the energy of Neptune is very good at sleight of hand around, look at the vision, look at the dream, don't look over here, don't look at the facts, don't look at the reality around who I really am or what my intentions are or what I'm actually selling you. Look at this, isn't it pretty? Isn't it glittery? Is it nice? And like I said, with the energy of Neptune, we're more likely to buy into the dream because it allows us to temporarily escape the more mundane facets of our reality. So we're more likely to be like, oh, I want to live in the countryside with you and have babies with you because that allows me to transcend the dull reality of my work desk. Or I want to buy this Ferrari that this car salesperson is selling to me because if I have a Ferrari, then I won't have to, drive place to place. It might beat up Honda. This will signal a whole new era for me. There just is a danger with Neptune energy around thinking this will fix it, but the energy of Neptune tends to be a hologram. It tends to be a farce. It's not necessarily something that has a lot of substance to it. And so you'll just want to be mindful of that. I also would be cautious when it comes to gossip or things of the nature. Mercury is in Gemini. Let's just say, okay, as we wrap up Gemini energy, I love Gemini energy. But there's a lot of messages, there's a lot of communication, there's a lot of talkativeness, and there can be energy where the gossip that is coming out, there's more to the story. When we think of the vibe check, the family reunion, there's always going to be some gossip, right? Like, well, why isn't Aunt Marcia here? Did you hear about Aunt Marcia and this? Like, sometimes there could be, a game of telephone gone awry when people get together. And I would just say with Mercury square Neptune, I would not believe everything that you hear or that you read today. I would definitely not accept any piece of gossip that you hear as the truth today. Like the energy of Neptune, there might be certain details that are obscured into the shadows. Maybe it's unintentional. Like we said, the reasoning that we thought Aunt Marcia wasn't at the reunion, maybe Aunt Marcia's true intentions of not being there are obscured. We don't know. And I would just say with Mercury square Neptune, before you run off with something or assume that there's a subtweet that was directed towards you or assume that this piece of gossip is real, it might be helpful to let the Neptune energy settle before you proceed with this information. I always think of Neptune energy as water, right? And it can kind of be that energy where if we're trying to see to the bottom of the lake and we're thrashing our hands in the water, trying to push the water out of the way to see to the bottom, it's going to be a futile effort, right? We are only going to see clearly to the bottom once we allow the water to settle, once there's no more ripples, once we're not thrashing our hands in the water. And Neptune energy is the same in that when it comes to Neptune energy, it can be easy to want to run off with certain pieces of information and be like, well, this is the truth, but you might need to just take a moment to let the water settle, let the news settle, let other details emerge before you take it to heart and take action upon it, whatever it may be. And so with Mercury square Neptune, to a very literal practical energy, I would just say double check any communication that you send today. You cannot strive for too much clarity today. Like if there's any question in your mind around, is it Prospect Park or Prosper Park? Ask. If there's any important communications that go out and you think it should be fine, you know, I reread it a couple of times, didn't I? Double check again. Like really strive for that extra beat of clarity to ensure that what it is that you are communicating cannot be misinterpreted, that you are on the same page with people, because it can be all too easy to misunderstand others, misinterpret others, and also have certain people project things onto you around what it is that you say. So for example, let's say you send a text and someone's like, do you want to go to dinner tonight? And you say, sure. Somebody might read it like, sure. And they're like, well, I don't want to go to dinner with you if you're not excited. Like, it might be helpful to be like, sure, can't wait. Like, it could be all too easy with Mercury square Neptune to project things onto people, particularly on their communications around, well, they just said sure, so they're not excited to go to dinner with me. Or they said you can come if you want to, so they must not want me to go. Like, it could be all too easy to project things onto what's being said and what's not being said. And with the energy of Neptune, it's imaginative, it's dreamy, so it could be a great writing day, but we also could be using this imaginative energy to project things and reasonings and intentions onto what's being said that the individual who said it didn't even intend. So it might be a helpful day to just make sure you're on the same page with those you are communicating with. And even though this exact so early on Monday, I would just say early this week, I would just say with the bleeding, melting energy of Neptune, just something to be cautious of as you continue to navigate this week. After Mercury squares off with Neptune, it goes on to enter Cancer around 2 a.m. PDT. And even though the parting gift of Mercury and Gemini's journey was a square to Neptune, which made things a little foggy and confusing, Mercury did enjoy its time in Gemini. Mercury governs Gemini, so there's a lot more communicative, cerebral energy in the cosmos. And now Mercury is entering territory where it is peregrine, which essentially means neutral. It's not super comfy, it's not unhappy, it's just neutral. What can you expect from Mercury's journey through Cancer? There could be a tendency from here on out to be a little bit more sentimental and nostalgic of the past with Mercury in Cancer. You can find yourself thinking a little bit more about the past. Again, it's like when it comes to family reunions or any sort of gathering, what do you do when you all get together? There tends to be a walk down memory lane around, remember when we did this, or remember this gathering when Aunt Marcia did this, right? Like there tends to be a more nostalgic energy around reflecting upon the past. And this is where things get tricky, because so much of the cosmos entering Cancer, we do tend to be more nostalgic. We do tend to be more sentimental. Summer begins here in the Northern Hemisphere, and I feel like summer is this very nostalgic time of year. We really remember particular summer memories. And it could be so easy with so much of the cosmos in Cancer and then these Neptune squares, it could be easy to romanticize the past and to even feel like the best days are behind us. But this is where we get into what's tricky about this week's astrology, is that we also have these Neptune squares, which tends to romanticize things. And there could be a tendency this week to romanticize the past, whether it's past lovers, whether it's past eras of our life, even past versions of ourselves. There could be a rose-colored hue that we are assigning to past memories, past experiences, past lovers that may not be necessarily the truth of what unfolded during that time. Because memory, while it's powerful and it can be emotional and it can be nostalgic, it is not always reliable. Our own emotions, our own vantage point can particularly color certain experiences and obscure certain experiences or the reality of certain experiences. It was trippy in New York City. I was chatting with my best friend, my soul sister, on this memory of when we lost each other in Dublin, Ireland. And obviously the actual experience of that going down was really scary and really intense. But of course, recounting it, we're able to find the humor in it. Was really ridiculous how we lost each other. And that's not the trippy part. The trippy part is that we both have very vivid images within our mind where only one of our memories can be the true memory. Let me explain what I mean. We both have the memory of being in the dorm window, so it was like on the second floor, looking down at the walkway and seeing the other approach. Like, I remember it clear as day, seeing her shadow approach the dorm, being so grateful that we had found each other. She remembers me being the one who was walking up to the dorm and she was looking down on me. And I have that vision of doing the same with her. So we're recounting this memory and we're like, well, who was it? We couldn't have both been in the dorm looking down at the other person. Like, who was the one who was at the dorm first and saw the other person? It was so trippy. And that's what I mean. Like, with the energy of so much of the cosmos entering Cancer, yes, there's more of a focus upon memory and the past and traditions and what has transpired. But sometimes certain things that we remember, it wasn't really that way. Maybe we have a certain memory around seeing our best friend approach the dorm, but maybe we were the one that approached. Sometimes when we tell certain stories or there's certain emotions around it, there can be certain details of the story or the memory that get a little foggy. And the reason I'm highlighting this is know that you can be romanticizing past experiences where that's not really how it was. Like, let's say you hear from an ex, right? And you're like, you know what? We did have a good relationship. That was not necessarily the case, but it's easy when you think back at certain experiences to be like, well, it wasn't so bad when they left me at that restaurant or when this happened. Just think of these other memories. Like I said, Neptune is very much that energy where it's like, look over here, obscure those details. And we could be doing that when it comes to certain elements of our past or things that we are recounting. And also just being conscious around where we are viewing things around the past, whether that's us romanticizing around, oh, it wasn't so bad, or think of this memory, or also into the past around, well, that's not possible for me because of what's transpired already, because of how I've grown up, or because of this, or because of that, because of what has occurred already, looking out at our world around, I couldn't possibly do that because of where it is that I come from, or because of how it is that I've showed up within the past. Like, it's important, certainly with all of this Cancer energy within the cosmos, to honor the past that has built you, that has gotten you to this point. But the Capricorn full moon this Friday asks you to also honor the future that you are building. And so outside of that, when it comes to communication, with Mercury in Cancer, it can be a little bit more seamless to tune into the energetic and emotional aspects of communication. So much of communication is nonverbal, and Mercury in Cancer can help us feel more into those cues, right? Like body language, or even just the emotional context of the conversation or things of that nature. That being said, Mercury is squaring from Neptune. So you might be looking into things a little too emotionally, or projecting things onto what's being said. So you can't necessarily trust everything around, well, they said see you later, not see you soon, so that means they're over it. Like, I definitely would not read into things of that nature, but with Mercury in Cancer, we can be more apt to tune into the intuitive side of communication, right? Around not just what's being said, but how these words are making us feel. And with Mercury in Cancer, we could be more apt to want to talk about our emotions. We could be more apt to want to have more deep, soulful, nurturing conversations, especially with Mercury aligning with Venus at 5:43 a.m. PDT. We could be really wanting to talk about elements of our lives that are a little bit more sacred, that are potentially a little bit more secret. You know, as more and more the cosmos enters Cancer, they're all answering to the moon, who is a luminary who's quite mysterious. It waxes, it wanes, we can see it at night. So it does govern the aspects of our life that are not necessarily visible to the naked eye, and we have to be in a safe environment for us to feel comfortable sharing those aspects of our life or aspect of ourselves. And so you may find on Monday morning you're more apt to have more soulful, loving conversations. This was the part of the vibe check where you're so absorbed talking to your aunts and your uncles and your cousins that you were not even looking at your phone. Those are the best conversations, when you're just so deep in that particular intimate conversation that the outside world, you know, fades into obscurity, right? With the squares to Neptune. Just need to be cautious that someone's not trying to get a hold of you. There's nothing scarier than that moment when you get to your phone and you realize that someone has called you 49 times and has texted you a million times if you missed it all. Oh my goodness, the guilt is unreal. You're like, what happened? What's going on? And with this energy, there's definitely a lot of sweet talking. Like, Venus is what's sweet, right? And it's on our words. So we definitely could be having more sweet conversations. There could be more sweet compliments that are being shared. Just being mindful with a square to Neptune that someone could be trying to butter us up or sweeten us up for intentions that may be obscured from vision at this particular point. But with Mercury, Venus, we could definitely be looking out at the world through a more sweet, cinematic, beautiful lens. Today's astrology is really giving this energy around romanticize your life. I mean, it might just be a typical day going to work on a Monday, but finding those small ways that you can romanticize it, right? Those ways that you can listen to music and have the windows down and feel the breeze in your hair, or make a latte and pretend you're in a movie scene, like walk over to your window and look out at the horizon as you sip it. Like those little moments that we just add a little bit of cinema, that we add a little bit of beauty into the daily act of living. And when we do that and make the world feel a little bit more cinematic, a little bit more magical, it helps us cope, which we may need on Monday. Something important to bear in mind with more and more the cosmos entering Cancer is that what the moon is doing is of the utmost importance. And the moon is in Scorpio, which is the sign of the moon's fall. And adding to that, it activates that Mars-Pluto square that I was telling you about last week. So these three fixed planets are in a little bit of a standoff with one another. So you may find you feel more frustrated on Monday. You may find other people are more frustrated with you, right? Like within the vibe check, there definitely was some squabble. There definitely was some tussling, okay? Which is very par for the course in sibling relationships, certainly. But it definitely doesn't feel like this is anything that's lasting or stewing or too serious. Like there's definitely crabbiness, but it's something that you can wash away. But on Monday, there can be certain experiences that are feeling very frustrating. There could be certain power struggles, just certain experiences that are frustrating around, you're drinking your latte cinematically, looking out the window, or listening to music on the way to work, and then you finally arrive to work, or you have to stop drinking your latte and go back to the task. Like that could be what's frustrating you today, is having to do the things, get out of your own fantasy world, right? Like that could be what's frustrating. And I would just say, with the moon in Scorpio, sometimes we can feel things intensely, and with the opposition to Mars and the square to Pluto, there can be certain experiences, emotions that we're feeling that are not ideal. And I would say, if possible, if you can reach for it, okay, not all of us will be able to reach for it on Monday, but if you can reach for it, romanticizing your sadness, not in a way of staying there and stewing in it, but in a way around, I'm sad, let me listen to sad music and just bask in this sadness, right? Or I'm frustrated, let me go on a walk and just allow myself to think all of these angry thoughts. It's not stewing in it, right? Or delighting in it, but it's allowing yourself to feel it. Around, if I'm gonna be sad, let's play the music, let's be sad, let's cry it out. Okay, if I'm gonna be angry, let me go for this angry walk. It's not denying what it is that you're feeling. Because within astrology, the luminary of intuition is also the luminary of emotion. So when we shut that down, we don't want to feel, we are also shutting down this conduit to the universe, right? Our lifeline, our intuition, oftentimes talks to us within all of these cycles, these wax and wanes of life. So there is an ask as more and more the cosmos dips into Cancer to allow yourself to feel, to allow these emotions to come into your space and to learn from it and to feel it deeply. And I say romanticize it, not in a lens around, oh, it's so romantic to be sad, but if you're gonna be sad, why not eat the ice cream, listen to the music, and just be in that, right? Make it like a movie scene, right? Like I am of the belief that the more dramatic that I can make an emotion, the easier that I can move through it. It's only when I deny and deny and deny and try to act like I'm okay that emotion snowballs and gets bigger and bigger. Because when we honor the wisdom of the moon is the value that comes from changing circumstances. When we allow ourselves to observe, hey, I'm sad, hey, I'm frustrated, this is something that's coming to the surface, and rather than denying it, just honoring it as a transient state that will shift. Should we learn from why are these emotions coming to the surface? How can I nurture myself within this moment? How can I learn from these emotions and trust that the tides will shift, right? The moon will be new again, what have you. So some of us could be feeling things intensely, and if possible, make it a movie scene, okay? How would someone who's frustrated behave in a movie scene? How would someone who's sad behave in a movie scene? Neptune governs screens, mirrors, cameras, which is why I keep saying that. And again, life is life, it's not a movie. But sometimes just being able to view a situation in our life as a scene around, okay, this is just a breakup scene. It's not the entire movie. It's just a breakup scene. So let me be there. Let me cry. Let me eat the ice cream. Let me call the friends, and let me honor that this is just a scene in the movie. It's not the entire story. And if it's available, applicable, and appropriate, let me reach for the beauty within this particular scene. Let me reach for the wisdom within this particular scene. Let me reach for the romanticizing of this particular scene. I can either cry in a bathroom stall, or I can cry in my silk pajamas with a record on and a candle burning, right? It's finding those moments to romanticize our lives with the squares to Neptune. But that being said, with the fixed T-square, you might be feeling frustrated. You might be feeling drained. You might be feeling exhausted. You might be feeling more sensitive. That's important to bear in mind with the squares to Neptune. Or a coworker could ask you to do something and you're like, does that mean that they don't like me? Like, definitely something to bear in mind with the energy of Neptune is that we tend to take on more energy from others. We tend to be a little bit more sensitive. Our guard tends to be a little bit more down. And whether we're tense and frustrated or other people are tense and frustrated, there definitely could be some butting heads with some frustrating circumstances today, which we may take a little bit more personally with the Cancer placements and with the squares to Neptune still alive in the cosmos. On Tuesday, June 18th, the only aspect that occurs all day is that the Scorpio moon will trine Saturn in Pisces at 1:18 p.m. PDT. So this is giving a productive day, because that is the magic that comes from allowing yourself to oscillate, allowing yourself to fluctuate. Is that yes, there will be certain days when you don't feel like doing anything at all. There will be certain days that you're feeling mad or sad or low energy or what have you. But when you allow yourself to be that and not force it, the pendulum will swing. There will be times that you're feeling really happy for no reason, or you're feeling super energized, or you're super motivated to take on certain tasks. It's allowing ourselves to wax and wane, just as the moon does. That's going to be really important as we navigate all of these Cancer planets. And with Scorpio moon trining Saturn in Pisces, yes, certainly with the moon transiting Scorpio, we can be feeling things more intensely, more pronounced. Saying that we tend to assume in a negative context, but you could also be feeling passion, intimacy more pronounced as well. And with the trine to Saturn, there can be an ask around, okay, I feel this, what am I going to do about it? Because like I said, sometimes we need to romanticize those moments around, I'm just going to cry in my silk pajamas and put a record on and have a candle and make it dramatic, make it big, eat the Cheetos, eat the ice cream, however it is that you cope, right? Sometimes when we allow ourselves to make it a big thing, we allow ourselves to sit in that moment, feel it fully, learn from it fully, and then the tide shifts and all of a sudden we're sick of crying and we want to do something else, right? And it's not about stewing in it. It's not about staying and identifying with these emotions. This transpired and I can't get over it. That's also a tendency of Cancer energy around being so affixed to what's transpired within the past that we can't allow ourselves to move on. With the Scorpio moon trining Saturn in Pisces, it asks you, what am I going to do about it? I feel this, I've learned from this, what am I going to do about it in order to take care of myself, in order to nurture myself? Now that I'm sick of crying in my silk pajamas, I got all the tears out, how am I going to allow myself to feel better? What are the things that I can do to nurture myself, to take care of myself? Or maybe you're frustrated in a certain scenario. Maybe your sibling did something that frustrated you, or somebody else who did something that frustrated you on Monday. With the Scorpio moon trine Saturn, it's like, how can we learn from this experience? How can we improve the situation? How can we move forward in a certain sense? Every relationship in our lives, there will be, potential conflicts. There will be times that this person annoys us or gets under our skin. It's not about finding people who never annoy us or who are perfect all of the time, right? There will be times we get on each other's nerves, right? And with the energy of the Scorpio moon trine Saturn, it really asks around, okay, how can we learn from this particular misunderstanding and move forward together? How can we solve this face on rather than being passive aggressive? That's why I made this week's Vibe Check a sibling situation, because I feel like with siblings, a lot of times there's not a lot of indirect energy. Oftentimes if you're annoyed, you say it, right? That's the nature of most sibling relationships, and you get over it because you're more direct around it, around You made me mad. You told me Prosper Park and it was actually Prospect Park, right? But you solve it, you handle it. Maybe there's a choice word or two, but you keep it moving, right? And that's the ask of Scorpio Moon trine Saturn. Whether it's a conflict or something else within your world, it asks, how can we keep it moving? How can we progress forward? How can we build forward stronger? And ultimately, when it comes to just your daily life on Tuesday, there can definitely be a more productive, more efficient energy around how it is that you are making decisions now that will benefit future you. That'll be more and more a focus of discussion as we build to the full moon on Friday around how are we setting ourselves up? How are we raising the bar of what we expect from ourselves? How are we up-leveling our own standards and expectations of ourselves? So the Scorpio moon trine Saturn could be asking you that. Also, if you are feeling more intense emotions with the trine to Saturn, it's like, how am I going to proactively feel better, right? I allowed myself to stew in this emotion. Now I'm sick of feeling sad. What can I do to raise my vibration to feel better? That can also be an ask on Tuesday. So for Wednesday's astrology, the Scorpio moon will oppose Uranus after midnight, which sometimes can create some restlessness. So you may have not been able to go to sleep the night before, or you could have just been feeling like you were in the mood for something different. Again, with the squares to Neptune this week, sometimes we just want to escape our life. We're just like over it. Just like, I just need a vacation. I need a break. I just need something that's not emails and toast and yogurt and commute. Like, I just need that something more. And that's where Neptune gets a rap for being a little bit of an escapist energy. Like sometimes in that effort of wanting things to feel a little bit more enhanced and intense and romantic, sometimes we turn to things such as, drugs and alcohol to strive to feel that way. And again, there's constructive escapism, right? Like a night that you spend escaping into a good book or escaping into a conversation with a dear friend, or destructive escapism, where the things that were transpiring as you were drinking the wine felt very significant as they were happening, but in the morning, all you're left with is a headache and anxiety, right? Like, it's important to decipher with Neptune energy. Yes, it's lovely to escape into a retreat, into a vacation, into a bottle of wine, but reality always does catch up, right? Like, trust me, the vacation that I just had in New York City was such a dream, but I'm definitely paying the price for it now, bank account wise, as well as just like energetically and mentally just feeling quite drained and quite depleted. Like, we always do pay the price when it comes to the dream, right? So it's just important to, yes, give yourself those moments of dreaminess and escape and fantasy and spirituality, but just make sure the price tag isn't too steep for you to not be able to pay the price when the price comes. That's just something I wanted to note. But with the energy of the Scorpio moon opposing Uranus a little after midnight and then building to trine Neptune, once you do get to sleep, you may find your dreams are quite interesting. You start the day either reeling from the unusual dreams that you had, or just again wanting to romanticize, watering up your plants and making up your latte and listening to music as you're getting ready. We have a very short void moon period from 9:19 a.m. to 9:32 a.m., at which point the moon will enter Sagittarius, which does take us out, which does enter Sagittarius. Now, this does go from deep emotions, that's the energy of Scorpio moon, to wide expansion. Like, the very nature of Sagittarius is wanting to adventure, is wanting to expand, is wanting to find meaning. That being said, we are building to a full moon on Friday. And so things feel more accentuated. Things feel more intense. Things can feel more busy within your life. And it's not just astrologers who say that things get a little wacky around full moons. Ask your bartender friends, ask your EMT friends. If you work with the general public, can you let me know, can you sense when it's a full moon just in how people respond? I hear that across all sorts of different industries. It's not just astrologers who say that things get a little wacky around full moons. And that's not even necessarily to say chaotic. It just, emotions are more pronounced. People are wanting to celebrate. There's epiphanies. Things can just feel a little bit more intense. A lot of things are reaching a culmination point. And so just knowing that we're building to that, yes, the energy of Sagittarius moon, we're wanting to adventure and expand and be optimistic, but do know that emotions are getting more and more pronounced as we build to the full moon this Friday, and things can feel a little bit more hectic, a little bit more busy. So the Sagittarius moon will sextile Pluto in Aquarius around 12:30, which might be great for a debate. Might be great for a debate, the lunch hour debate. If there's one thing that Sagittarius placements will do is that they will debate. They will debate you on various topics. And with the sextile to Pluto in Aquarius, there can be a certain depth that you are bringing into what is being discussed here, as well as potentially even the ability to be able to transform the other person's perspective or outlook. That is the true magic of a debate, is being able to have certain conversations and see like, oh, I never thought about it that way, right? Like, keep in mind, we're in the final couple of degrees of Gemini season, and this is absolutely the energy around being able to hold the nuance of two things at once or two different perspectives and be fundamentally changed as a result of it. So I just want to say there could be an opportunity for that potentially midday. And then the Sagittarius moon will oppose Jupiter in Gemini that evening around 8:20-ish p.m. And this can create excess, potentially excessive optimism. There can be an energy later on in the day around, I don't want to do this, so I'll do it tomorrow, or I'm just going to leave this work project for next week. And one thing that's important to keep in mind is that next week arrives, tomorrow arrives, right? And we might not be being so realistic about how much this will actually take on. Like, we could just be pushing things to tomorrow, not keeping in mind all of the other tasks that we need to get done tomorrow. There also just could be an energy around wanting to be spontaneous, wanting to do something new, wanting to have some fun, right? Wanting to have an adventure, really, with the energy of Sagittarius moon. Yes, full moon building can make us more emotional, but ultimately we could be wanting to socialize. We could be wanting to go out into the world. We could be wanting to learn something new, right? This might be a great time for a pottery class, or learning how to tie knots, or just learning something random could be helpful, because at least it's new. At least you're injecting your life with some sort of, novelty, with some sort of adventure, seeing new sights, meeting new people. There can be an ask to do that evening. Just be mindful around escapism and excess, right? Always seeking more, especially with Sun building to square Neptune early the next day. So on Thursday, June 20th at 11:12 a.m. PDT, the Gemini Sun will square off with Neptune in Pisces. And in addition to the aforementioned Neptune considerations of be mindful of escapism, be mindful of projection or reading into things or being too sensitive, you could also find you're more sleepy, right? These are all important things to keep in mind with Neptune energy. I also want to say with this particular aspect, be mindful of where you are projecting onto people's identity. Because keep in mind, just after the Sun squares up with Neptune, it enters Cancer, which is a sign that has to do with the past. And it could be all too easy to project how someone is based on how they have been in the past. Now, keep in mind, the best predictor for future behavior is how they've shown up in the past. So it's not to say that there's not value within the data of how people have treated you or how your little sister has responded in past situations. But when we base people and situations only off how they've shown up within the past, we lose out on the ability to be able to cast that person in a new role. Like, maybe your little sister is trying to grow and be more responsible, and she got to Prosper Park right on time, but it can be easy to project around, of course my little sister's not here. She always does this. She's so irresponsible. She probably forgot the buns. She got lost. It's easy to project how we see someone and project that onto their actions. Again, the actual situation was fogged from your view. You weren't on your phone, right? You didn't know that your sister was sent to the wrong park, and it was easy due to how you've always seen her to project, this is so like her. She's so irresponsible. She's so this, she's so that, even if maybe in reality she's trying to take steps to alleviate that reputation. And so again, sometimes we can do this in unfavorable ways, like we did within the vibe check, around already getting mad, having resentment towards the situation due to how you already view your sister around. This is so like her, irresponsible yet again. Meanwhile, she's fighting for her life with these buns in Prosper Park. Like, we have to allow people to grow and to evolve. And sometimes it could be all too easy to project things onto people. And sometimes we do this in unfavorable ways. Sometimes we do this in favorable ways, in ways that people do not deserve, right? Like saying, this person is my soulmate, even when there's other details of how they've treated you that are not conducive to this role, this identity around, this is my soulmate, this is the one that I'm meant to be with. Like, Neptune energy can make it all too easy for certain facts to obscure into the background and to make this person's identity what it is that we've projected it to be, even if that's not the case. This is not how a soulmate would treat you. Earlier in the week, we were talking about how with Mercury now in Cancer, Cancer, a lot more of our conversation can be skewed through the more intuitive, emotional subtext, right, of what it is that we're saying. And so think about how it is that you signal what someone's role is in your life via how you tell stories about them. For example, let's say I want my friends to see the person that I'm dating as my soulmate, just as I've projected them to be. If that person stands me up, I'm going to tell the story with them cast as that role. So I'm going to say, you know, they didn't make it to dinner. They were so busy with work. They have so much on their plate. They're so hardworking. You know, I had to sit there for some time, but I got some pasta, so it was all good. And they felt so bad after. They were so apologetic, right? I'm telling the story and telling you the details that aligns with that certain projection of how I see them and how I want you to see them. Versus if I hadn't cast this person to be that, I would probably tell you around, I was waiting at this restaurant for 3 hours. I was so embarrassed. The waiter kept coming over to check on me. Finally, I ordered pasta because I felt weird. And I called them over and over and over again, and I got no answer. And it was so embarrassing. And I cried into my fettuccine when it finally arrived, right? Like, that is quite a different picture that I'm painting via the details that I'm telling you that aligns with the role that I've cast this person to be in my life. Thus, I'm repeating to you. As well as think about being at that family reunion and everybody's like, oh, where's your sister? Where's your sister? You know, if you've projected around, she's so irresponsible, it's so like her, you would be like, oh, she probably got lost, or she's talking late to coworkers. I bet she didn't even bring buns, didn't even bring burgers. Like, a lot of what you would say would be in alignment with how you've always seen her. Just some food for thought with Sun square Neptune around where it is that you are seeing people as they are versus what you are projecting them to be. Also, how you're viewing yourself. As I shared within the vibe check, if we were to tag ourselves, I would likely be the irresponsible younger sister based on who I've been within the past. Again, the past is a big topic of conversation with so much of the cosmos entering Cancer. And that's a role that I've seen myself within around don't give Haley anything too complicated because it's just a miracle if she gets there without stains on her clothes, right? Like, that's been who I've been. Within my family, within my friend group, is just kind of flustered, just kind of a mess, just kind of in her own world. And I'm conscious of how I view myself in that way, and I'm conscious of where I'm evolving from that particular role. Because sometimes we delay our own growth when we only see ourselves through the lens of who we've been in the past or the roles that we played within the past. By telling yourself, well, I couldn't possibly do that, or that's not typically how it is that I show up. Who's to say that it couldn't be? Like with Sun square Neptune, it's keeping in mind that you are the hero of your journey, you are the protagonist of your story, and you're in charge of how that story is being written and the role that you are playing within your story. So it's taking that into account as you continue to write this next chapter. And yes, who it is that you were in the prologue, who it is that you've been in the past, that's part of your story, but it's not all that you can be. You've got an arc, my love. You've got a character arc, okay? So it's not losing out on that potentiality to grow just through the lens around who you've always been or how people have always seen you or how you've always seen yourself. You never know. You could shift roles. You could evolve from being the irresponsible little sister to the one who plans the family reunion, right? To the one who's the first one there and handles the main course. Like, it's allowing ourselves to have a character arc. It's allowing ourselves to evolve and to grow and to intentionally typecast yourself in a role that allows you that space to do so. And then shortly after the Sun squares Neptune, the Sun will ingress into Cancer around 1:51 p.m. So I want to take this opportunity to wish all of my crustaceans a very happy birthday season. I absolutely adore you for your nurturing ways, for your ability to intuit exactly what it is that I need in that particular moment without me having to say anything at all, for the way that you make me feel so safe and so cozy within your presence. We adore you so much. I hope that you have the most magical season. You deserve it. And ultimately, with us navigating Cancer season, yes, we can be more sensitive. We could be more nostalgic, but it also asks you, what's my shell? What's my exoskeleton, right? Like, Cancer is the crab. And yes, they're sensitive. They can take things personally, certainly. But Cancers are strong. They're shrewd. Do not underestimate the energy of Cancer. Like, Cancer is the archetypal mom. And just think of that fierce mama bear energy, right? Like, do not underestimate Cancer energy. It's strong. It's shrewd. And it also has this ability to protect itself, to bob and weave accordingly. Like, I always think it's appropriate that crabs kind of go from side to side. Things are not always so linear, right? Like sometimes we kind of bob and weave. We go in different directions, and Cancer honors all of that subliminal subtext that can cause us to respond or to shift from direction to direction. And so with the energy of Cancer season, it does ask you, what's my shell? What's my exoskeleton? What allows me to protect my sensitivity, my vulnerability from this sometimes very harsh world? That's why Cancer has to do with home and family. It's about what nourishes you. And again, when I say family, I don't necessarily mean blood. For some of you, your family might be your community. It might be your chosen family, your friendships, whatever. It's the people that you are around, the connections that you have that nurture you to a soul level, that allow you to retreat from the harshness of the external world to feel soothed, to feel comforted. And for some of you, maybe that's people. For some of you, maybe that's activities or certain religious practices or certain spiritual rituals that you do. But it does ask you, how is it that I nurture myself, that I withdraw from the crazy external world to allow myself to sink into what is sacred, to what is soulful for my own being? There can be an ask to really allow yourself to do what makes you feel at home, truly at ease. And yes, there could be more of a focus on your physical abode, right? Your sanctuary that nourishes you, inspires you, renews your energy, but also just on the home of your being, the activities that make you feel safe and comfortable within your own skin, the activities that allow yourself to emotionally take care of yourself can be a focus as you navigate this season. Also on Thursday, I want to wish you a very happy solstice. So summer officially begins here in the Northern Hemisphere. Winter officially begins in the Southern Hemisphere. Cancer is a cardinal sign. Cardinal signs always start seasons, initiate seasons. So with the energy of solstice, we are dealing with contrast. A lot of hours of sunlight in many parts of the globe, lots of hours of darkness in other parts of the globe. So sometimes certain emotions can sharpen into contrast. Like sometimes we could just be navigating certain contrasts within our universe as well as we near solstice. But it is a very sacred day of initiating this new season, and with it, new opportunities to co-create. And on Thursday, the moon will be transiting Sagittarius all day long, which, as we said, is a very adventurous, expansive, exploratory energy. And so I find it funny that the moon's in Sagittarius, the sun enters Cancer. Now the moon is of the utmost importance because Venus, Mercury, and the sun are all answering to the moon. So when the moon changes signs, when the moon has a huge moon phase, as it does tomorrow, we feel that more intensely now that so many planets of the sky are answering to the moon. And so with the moon transiting Sagittarius at the time of the sun's ingress into Cancer, it just kind of gives this energy of being able to adventure because you have that safe space, that sanctuary to return back to, right? Feeling more inspired to expand your horizons and see new sights because you know you have this sanctuary to return back to that will nurture you and soothe you. Like to me, I've been traveling for a bit now. I mean, I was in New York City, and before that I was with Midnight, the cat. Like I've not been here a lot. And in walking in the door from New York City, I just had this moment of being like, why do I ever leave this place? I love here. I love San Diego. I love my home, right? And that's certain nuance that you don't always get until you fly the coop. Right? Like I live in San Diego, as I said. I love it here. I'm not from here. My friends who grew up in San Diego had to leave San Diego to realize how much they love San Diego. Like you don't always appreciate something until you've seen other sites or have different contrast in order to compare it to. And sometimes you don't even necessarily feel as empowered to go and spread your wings and see new sights if you don't feel like you have that home space to come back to. But I will say, come back from New York City, I loved my time. I loved my time with Midnight in my hometown with my family. I loved my time in New York City with the girlies. I loved all of it, but my goodness, do I love being home. Ooh, I got to sleep in my bed last night. There is nothing better than sleeping in your own bed after a week of being on an air mattress that I would wake up with it deflated every single morning. And the last night, my friend's cat peed on it. So that was rough. So being able to come back into my cozy bed and wake up in my cozy bed in the morning, I was like, why do I ever leave this place? I love home. So you could also just find, yes, it's summertime, so a lot of us are traveling or exploring, but my goodness, is it nice to be home. every so often. And on Thursday, yes, there can be this expansive exploratory energy. It's the first day of summer here in the Northern Hemisphere, that is, but the Sagittarius moon does square off with Saturn in Pisces at 9:08 p.m. So we could feel a little blocked within our adventures. Our optimism could feel a little blocked. We could be dealing with responsibilities or obligations. Life could be lifing. Like there could just be certain things that feel annoying, that are cramping our style, that are cramping our adventures. Keep in mind, our emotions can be more intense because we are building to tomorrow's full moon. So take it all in stride. Know that it won't always feel as it does right now. And again, allow yourself to feel the emotions, some of which might not be necessarily pleasant to deal with the moon squaring Saturn, because Cancer season reminds us everything is always in flux. It will not always feel as it does today. So on Friday, June 21st, we have the first of 2 Capricorn full moons. Yes, we have 2 Capricorn full moons this year, bookending Cancer season. And so we have this one entering us into Cancer season, and then we have a full moon in Capricorn at the end of the season, wrapping up the season. So this one will be felt with those who have cardinal placements more so in the early degrees, and that last one will be felt more so with those who have cardinal placements, which is Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn at later degrees. But we've got 2 Capricorn full moons, and the stories around each are quite different in tone. So let's talk about today's. So firstly, it exacts at 6:08 p.m. It lands with the sun at 1 degrees Cancer and the moon at 1 degrees Capricorn. Its tightest aspect that it's making is a square to Neptune, who's in Pisces at 29 degrees. And so there is this ask with the sun in Cancer. As I've said, it's about our roots, our ancestry, the past, the aspects of our life that are sacred, that are private, our homes, our family, our emotions. Whereas Capricorn is the contributions that we make to this planet that are more public, that are more visible, that are more linear. And with these 2 luminaries squaring off with Neptune, there is this ask to both romanticize the past that has built us up to this point, as well as romanticize the future that we are building. Like I said, with Sun square Neptune, you are the protagonist in the story, and you are responsible for the role that you are playing. And if you see yourself in a certain way, that will be a self-fulfilling prophecy, in that you will most likely make the decisions that are congruent with how it is that you see yourself. And we talked about kind of the dangers of romanticizing the past, around how we can be, deluding ourselves and gaslighting ourselves to not remembering how things really were. But it's also important around how you shape your past, or how you tell the story of it. Because if you've centered yourself in a certain role around, I'm the irresponsible little sister and that's all that I'll be, you will seek out and remember certain memories that are congruent with how it is that you see yourself. So you'll remember, oh yeah, that one time that I forgot to bring the cake to the birthday party, or that one time that I totally forgot that it was Aunt Marcia's birthday and I didn't get her anything. Like, those will be the memories that you stick onto because they are congruent with how it is that you see yourself, and it'll continue to validate that's who it is that you are. You're the irresponsible little sister who nobody in the family trusts to bring the important ingredients to the event or to arrive there on time or what have you. Whereas if you leverage Neptune artfully, being able to remember, okay, yes, I did forget the cake for Aunt Marcia's birthday party, but the next year I made her a beautiful cake with strawberries on top that everybody ate up and adored, right? It's also remembering that when it comes to your own history, right? The history of you. And like I was saying, in terms of storytelling with other people, we can tell the story in light of the role that we've cast them in. Be mindful for how you do that for yourself as well. If you always tell certain stories from a more self-deprecating standpoint, or from a standpoint around, oh, that's so me, getting lost in the wrong park or what have you. And so it's also being able to view certain experiences that maybe were emotional at the time or painful at the time, but being able to view them around what you learned from that particular experience, how it shaped you and molded you to be the person that you are. I read a lot of memoirs, and it's very clear when you're reading a memoir how and if somebody has grown from a certain experience, right? Like, you can have 2 people who had the same thing happen to them, and one person can use that as a reason why they will never move forward in life, and one person can use it as a reasoning around why they were so hungry to succeed. It's all around the lens by which we view that experience and weave it into our own personal architecture, our own personal history. Because with Neptune squaring the Capricorn moon, it's also around where it is that we're romanticizing visualizing what it is that we are building. Because one thing I'll tell you, whatever it is that you want the most, whatever vision you are building, or whatever ambition you are building, it will not feel exactly as you think that it will. You might think, as soon as I have this, all of the bad things in my life are just going to fade into the background and every day is just going to be bliss. Not necessarily. Life is going to life. But with the square to Neptune, sometimes it could be helpful to romanticize what it is that we're building, because it can allow us to continue to be hungry and to build what it is that we want to last and to endure and to be part of our legacy within this lifetime. And so with this Capricorn full moon, it does ask you, what is it that you're building? And yes, with the square to Neptune, it won't feel exactly as you think it'll feel as soon as you succeed that. There will likely just be new ambitions that emerge as you do succeed in these visions that you have, but it's allowing yourself to dream of different things that you can build and different versions of yourself that you can continue to build. And with the Capricorn full moon also opposing Venus in Cancer, it's also a reminder to nurture the process and the progress, not just the end result. Let's say your goal is to grow a garden. You might think, okay, if I can grow 12 tomatoes, this garden would be a success. But success is not just about the 12 tomatoes or the end result of it. It is about all of those in-between moments. Every single day that you went out and watered the tomatoes and checked on them and even sang to them or talked to them. Do you guys talk to your plants? I sing to my plants. I talk to them. They like it. I'm telling you, plants are sentient beings. They can feel the vibes and they respond accordingly. And sometimes when Capricorn energy is out of balance, we can over-idealize the end result, that we allow ourselves to be harsh in that process. We could bully the tomatoes around, you need to grow more. You need to be bigger. But that's going to be quite a different end result than if we went out there and we just nurtured the tomatoes and sang to them or talked to them or were present in the process. Like, to me, that's where it makes so much sense that Cancer is the archetypal, mom energy. Because ultimately, being a parent, the end result is, okay, let's grow, well-functioning adults who transition into society. But there's so many nuances in the in-between. It's about the process. It's not just about the end result. So yes, the Capricorn full moon is around, okay, attune to your ambitions. What do you want to create that's enduring and lasting within this world? But also nurture yourself and the very process of growing that ambition, of creating that, of building this vision. Nurture it. Because in small ways or big ways, it will be felt on the receiver's end, right? Like I said, plants are sentient beings, okay? You're going to have quite different tomatoes if you go out there and yell and bully the tomatoes every day that they need to grow big, or if you talk to the tomatoes, if you nurture the process. If you're forcing yourself to make a song in subliminal, subconscious ways, again, a lot of the Cancer energy speaks to these more hidden dimensions of life. The listener will feel that stressed energy that went into making that song because you're bullying yourself around, got to finish this song today. So it's about nurturing the process. It's about nurturing yourself within the process of building what it is that you want. So the Capricorn full moon sharpens that into focus. And you'll want to see where within your chart you have 1 degree Capricorn, as this can highlight what particularly you're feeling inspired to grow or what culminations, fulfillments are reaching a peak within your world. Outside of the full moon, which is the main event, right, that evening, and things can feel kind of hectic, kind of intense getting to that point. Again, it's not all necessarily bad emotions that surface. A lot of times with full moons, it can be a time of celebration. It can be a time of certain arenas of our life reaching a culmination or reaching a fulfillment. That's why the vibe check, was a party. Like, there is a lot of times a desire to want to celebrate life, to celebrate summer at that. Outside of that, on Friday, we also have around 9:23 a.m. Mercury in Cancer sextile Mars in Taurus. Now, how you can use this co-creatively is that our words are packing a punch today. Not literal punches. I just mean there's a more powerful way in which we are communicating around getting things done. And like I said about Mercury in Cancer and crabs, they move smart. They're shrewd. They move side to side. They're dialed into the emotional and energetic responses, and they respond accordingly. Like, I know a lot of people who are salespeople or things of that nature know this well and might do this intuitively and naturally without even realizing it. And that how you sell to one person won't be how you sell to a different person. Like with Mercury in Cancer, it's really sizing the situation up intuitively, and with the sextile to Mars in Taurus, allowing that to guide the way in which we are going to try to get what it is that we want from the situation. Mars. But ultimately, we could find we're able to communicate with a little bit more assertiveness. We could find there's a quickness as it relates to our thoughts. We could be a little bolder as it relates to our language. I mean, earlier in the week, we had Mercury, Venus, and then later in the week, we have Mercury Mercury sextile Mars. So we definitely could be more flirty, not in a way where we're saying the same pickup line to every single person. Like with Mercury in Cancer, we're allowing our intuition to guide. So we're following our instincts. We're not forcing it, but if we feel so inclined around, I want to talk to that person, we're more likely to reach out to it. Or I'm going to talk to my boss today around this new idea. Follow your intuition. Okay, that's all I want to say. And with Mercury in Cancer, sextile Mars, the way in which you are communicating the ideas that you're putting out there, the people that you're hitting on, you can find that you are more effective today with this energy aligning. And from a lunar perspective on Friday, the Sagittarius moon, it squared off with Saturn last night, which is a little bit of a bummer. Summer bummer energy. But at 3:41 a.m. on Friday, the Sagittarius moon trines Chiron in Aries. So there's an energy around, oh, that sucks, but I'm over it. It's kind of the vibe. It's a full moon day, as I said, so it's very busy. Lots of conversations with Mercury sextile Mars, lots of ideas even, and focus can most certainly be a problem as the Sagittarius moon squares off with Neptune around 4 p.m. So you could either be feeling really not in the mood to work, right? Having conversations with your coworkers that you don't have to attune to the tasks, or having a lot to do maybe because it's a full moon, but feeling distracted around wanting to take it all on. Or there could just be an energy around, get me to the weekend, get me to the next vacation. I'm telling you, all this Neptune energy, a lot of us are just going to want to transcend or escape from our reality. Very short void moon. The moon will enter Capricorn, the sign of the full moon, at 4:08. And then of course we have the Capricorn full moon exacting at 6:08 p.m. So on Saturday, June 22nd, the Capricorn moon will oppose Venus in Cancer around 3:20 a.m. And like I said, the moon hits different during Cancer season. What the moon is doing is of the utmost importance. And earlier in the week, we had moon in Scorpio, not a territory the moon likes to be in, and currently we have the moon in Capricorn, not a territory the moon likes to be in, right? So sometimes with the moon in Capricorn, we can be a little harsh with ourselves. And again, it's like you wouldn't go and scream at the tomatoes to grow more bulbous, right? And to grow juicier and more delicious, right? The end result might be that we want bulbous, delicious tomatoes, but it's important how it is that we nurture the process of growing said tomatoes or growing said ambition of ours. And it's important to keep in mind, while you wouldn't yell at the tomatoes or yell at children, also not to yell at yourself, not to bully yourself in the pursuit of what it is that you want to accomplish, right? In the ambitions that you are building. You wouldn't scream at tomatoes, don't scream at yourself, right? It's kind of an ask here. Nurture the process, nurture yourself. And with the energy of the Capricorn moon opposite Venus in Cancer, you could be being too harsh with yourself. You could be being too harsh with others. You could be taking things personally. You could be being hard on yourself. You could be over-identifying with the end result, not taking into account the process of nurturing said ambition. So just something important to be mindful of. But Saturday's astrology is really giving rest and recovery, bringing yourself back into center. The Capricorn moon will trine Mars in Taurus around 9:37 a.m. So it might be nice to do something physical, go for a walk, go to the beach, allow yourself to shake off some energy, some full moon feels if you're still feeling it. And then the Capricorn moon will oppose Mercury in Cancer. So you may feel a little bit more indecisive. There could be a hard time separating emotions from communication today. I mean, that's a given with Mercury in Cancer, but especially on Saturday. There could be some communications that you take to heart or a little sensitive about. Like your partner could tell you, oh, I noticed the living room was really messy, and you read into it like, are they saying that I'm messy? And it's like not just about what we say right now, it's about how we say it. And we could definitely be taking things to heart or being a little bit more sensitive on Saturday. And I would just say with that supportive Capricorn moon trining Mars, move some energy physically. We also have Mercury sextile Mars separating the cosmos, so it might be helpful to get on the same page or to address things proactively. That is not a strong suit of Cancer energy, is being very proactive with things. Sometimes it could be a little passive aggressive, not always. Okay, I'm not coming for you if you have Cancer placements. I'm just saying sometimes there could be a tendency with a lot of energy in Cancer to internalize things, to make it a story around how our partner doesn't love us and think that we're messy just because they said the living room was messy. So with that separating aspect of Mercury sextile Mars, it might be helpful to be like, hey, what did you mean by this? Or do you want to clean it together? Like, how can we proactively solve this situation so I don't assume that you hate me and I go cry in the bedroom? Right, let's get on the same page. So on Sunday, June 23rd, the Capricorn moon will sextile its ruler, Saturn in Pisces, around 2:02 a.m., going on to square Chiron in Aries. Now, like I was saying earlier, it's important this season to allow ourselves to feel. As frustrating as it can feel sometimes when we feel ourselves swing into sadness or into nostalgia or into anger, into emotions that we don't necessarily want to experience, it's important to honor those pendulum swings as they come up, which the Capricorn moon wants to suppress. It wants to compartmentalize, it wants to distract, it wants to ignore. And with the energy of Capricorn moon square Chiron, we could be striving to achieve or to be so productive that we escape our problems. Like, it's important to bear in mind with all of this Neptune energy that we've been experiencing this week, we don't just escape with things such as wine or other substances. There's many ways to escape. And for a lot of us, work is a huge one, right? Escaping into work and productivity so that we don't have to feel the uncomfortable emotions, or even escaping into a workout, like just wanting to avoid what we're feeling. And again, those can be very productive, helpful things, work and working out, but it's important the why of how we approach these things, because when it comes to the squares to Neptune, we can overindulge. We can turn working into a high, ultimately seeking that validation, ultimately wanting to seek that validation, like I am enough, I'm doing enough. Or we can turn working out into a high, like constantly pushing ourselves into new levels of physical, pain and strain in this effort to avoid what is coming to the surface. These are not bad things, but it's important the why that we approach them and seeking not to escape our reality. It's important the why behind these things, especially if we're seeking to exercise to suppress our healing or wanting to be so productive so that we don't have to feel the uncomfortable emotions. Like, not bad things, not bad ways of coping, but just important to consider the why. And we also do this via achievement, right? And wanting that high of finally achieving something that we've wanted and seeking to avoid our healing around, well, if I was only famous, if I only had this, if I only had that, then I wouldn't feel all of these uncomfortable emotions. And it's important to know that success is a magnifier. It magnifies everything that was there before, and you deal with it just on a bigger scale with bigger consequences. And also that high around achieving what it is that you've wanted is very temporary. That's why it's about the process and the progress, because that moment around, wow, I achieved this thing, it's a high, and you crash, and now the next thing that you want arrives. So it is around the progress, that happiness, that fulfillment, that joy, that feeling of pride in yourself. It's not awaiting you at the top of whatever it is that you are desiring within your experience at this moment. And so with the energy of the Capricorn moon sextile Saturn, it's around, yes, build what it is that you want. But with the Capricorn moon square Chiron and Aries, know that it doesn't erase what it is that you've gone through or what within you is hurting within. The Capricorn moon will then trine Uranus, so this could be a great day to do something new, right? Get out in nature, see some new sights. Capricorn moon sextiles Neptune at 8:05 p.m., so nurture the soul space. The moon then enters Aquarius at 8:14 p.m., then building to align with Pluto at 10:50. So there can be some intense emotions, potentially obsessiveness, right? There can be a feeling around feeling like an outcast or feeling different than other people. And I just want to share, just in case this comes up for one person, because this just happening so fresh off of the Capricorn full moon, which is a full moon around what it is that we are ascending to and leveling up towards, and where it is that we are pushing ourselves to excavate new sides of ourselves and driving ourselves to succeed, not because of the end result, but also because of those moments of the in-between. I want to let you know that process can be lonely sometimes. You will feel lonely in the process of building something for yourself. Certainly, there will be like-minded people on the path, but ultimately these ambitions are your own, these dreams are your own, and there will be moments in which you realize that your priorities are different than those around you. There will be times that you feel like an alien. There will be times that you feel left out when you're, working on your business and everybody's out and about, or you're nurturing your family and everybody else is on a trip. There will be moments in which you feel different than other people, but it's important to know that the dreams and ambitions that you're building are different than other people's. So ultimately, you're going to feel different in the process. So my loves, that is our week. The Magic Monday mantra of the week is, I nurture the process and the progress of my goals. The Capricorn full moon asks you to celebrate how far you have come and look forward to where it is that you are going. The energy of Cancer has a lot to do with the past, with where it is that we've been before. And again, revisiting our roots can sometimes intensify our hunger, right? When we revisit our hometown and remember the ways that we grew up and the experiences that we endured through, it helps sharpen into focus around, I did not come this far to only go this far. Like, I'm so hungry for my success because I know where it is that I've been. I know the pain that I've overcame. I know the fundamental disadvantages that I came from, and that drives and sharpens into focus the success that I want to have. Celebrate yourself. You might not be where it is exactly that you want to be, but you are closer than where you've been. And sometimes revisiting old journals, old sites of your hometown, even going to the family reunion and discussing old memories, sometimes that can sharpen that into focus, how far you have come to be to this point. But also continue to nurture yourself in the process, right? You do not get to the top of your ambitions by hating yourself and bullying yourself within that process of wanting to do more, succeed more, produce more. The pleasure is in the process. To be corny, the success is in the journey of becoming the person who is successful. It's not about the ultimate end result of success. It's around the who you had to become in order to achieve what it is that you wanted, your own visions of how you would define success, which are going to differ from other people's. So it's about nurturing the process. It's about nurturing the progress. It's around nurturing the past as you build the future. That's what's sharpening into focus this week. So my loves, if you made it to the end of the video, go ahead and drop the tomato emoji below, or use the word tomato within a sentence to let me know that you made it to the end of the Magic Monday. I've been using a lot of food emojis, I'm realizing, as of late. I want to give another warm thank you to Magic Mind for sponsoring this week's Magic Monday. Reminder, you can use code COMETTRIAL to get your first sample 3-pack from Magic Mind free. You just have to pay shipping in order to make your mind more magical by increasing flow state, improving memory, improving focus, improving concentration, all of the things. So make sure to check that out below. I'll have it in the description as well as the pinned comment. But until we meet again, drink lots of water, stay